Let us study movement in plant. Okay, so this will be the first half of the chapter, and we'll be starting with the movement of plants, and we'll try to understand that how movement in plant takes place, and what are the different types of movement in plants. Okay, fine. So let us start with it. आगे देखते हैं. Okay, so now you might have seen that a sunflower always is directed towards the sun, right? And that is why it is called as a sunflower, because it always follows the position of the sun, right? So the position of the sun, or the change in the position of the sun, is nothing but the stimulus, and the bending of the sunflower towards that sun's position will be called as a response to that stimulus, right? उस हम लोग क्या कहेंगे, response कहेंगे. Likewise, what we can say is, if we touch a touch me not plant, touch me not plant is also called as mimosa plant. क्या कहेंगे इसको हम लोग, mimosa. The scientific name of touch me not plant is what? It is mimosa. Let me spell it for you. It is m it is mimosa. It is mimosa plant. Okay, mimosa plant. So a mimosa plant is in common language called as touch me not plant. इसको हम लोग क्या कहते हैं, touch me not plant. हम लोग हिंदी में इसको चुई मुई कहते हैं, right? So as soon as you touch the leaf of these mimosa plant, what will happen is the leaf of mimosa plant will shrink, and it will get shrink into a very small volume, right? Let's see, आगे देखते हैं. Let's talk about it more. इसको delete कर देता हूँ. Okay, now let's talk about another movement. In this movement, what we can see is that as soon as you sow seed, what will happen is after a few days, if the seed gets favorable condition, the seed will start sprouting, and once sprout comes out, those sprout will be getting converted into the root system as well as the shoot system. If you see, you can observe there certain kind of movement over here, yes or no, right? Even the root are moving downwards, the shoot is moving upwards, and even if you see, the bud is opening over here, right? Yes or no, the bud is opening over here. All of these are movement. If you fast forward these movement, we can say that actually plants move from its place, right? Yes or no? Yes. Let's talk about it more. आगे देखते हैं. So plant move in response to external stimulus and due to growth. Okay, so this is how we can say plant show movement. There are two things. What is that? It can be either external stimulus or it can be either due to growth. मतलब वो growth की वजह से भी movement कर सकता है, कि external stimulus की वजह से भी कर सकता है. Fine. This is how we can understand it well. Okay. There is a question from Manish. Yes, Manish is saying, she's asking, so can we say that growth is a movement? Exactly, that is what my point was, that growth can be thought of as movement. Okay, and this movement is called as tropism. क्या कहेंगे इसको हम लोग? Tropism or tropic movement. क्या कहते हैं? Tropic movement. We'll be talking about this in coming slides. Okay, Manish. Okay, so let's talk about it more. आगे देखते हैं. So Manish, the thing which Manish said was exactly correct, and we'll be learning about this in the coming slide. That growth, he's asked that can growth be thought of as movement, and that was exactly what I wanted to tell you. That growth is nothing but a kind of a movement. Okay, it is a kind of a movement which leads to increase in the size of the body of an individual. Okay. Let's see, आगे देखते हैं. But what causes movement in plant? Plant के अंदर. Now still the question arises that what is the thing which is responsible for movement in plant? So the question is that what causes the movement in plants? Plants के अंदर movement कौन करता है? What is the thing which is responsible for plants to move? Okay, so let's talk about that. Okay, देखते हैं आगे. So do plant have muscular system and nervous system? You all might be saying, sir, no. Why? Because the muscular system and the nervous system both is the system which is present in animals but not plants. Plants के अंदर ना muscular system होता है, nor do they have any nervous system. Okay, let's see. आगे देखते हैं. The answer to that question was no. So the movement in coordinated by chemical called as hormones. Okay, so there is a movement which is coordinated by some chemicals. These chemicals are called as hormones. Even our body also has hormones. हमारे body के अंदर भी बहुत सारे hormones होते हैं. 8th standard में we learned about few hormones like testosterone and estrogen and progesterone, yeah, and growth hormone, endocrine hormone, thyroxine hormone. ये सभी चीज हम लोगों ने देखा था, right? So these hormones, not only in animals but in plants also hormones are present. Now these chemicals will be like they will be bringing about coordinated movement in plants, and since it is done by chemicals, these chemicals will be called as hormones. Okay, fine. So when we talk about movement in plants is done by certain chemicals, and these chemicals which brings about coordinated movement in plants, they will be called as hormones. And in case of plants, these hormones are called as phytohormones. It is called as phytohormones. Let me spell it for you. It is phy, phyto, and normally the spelling of hormones. Okay, so the spelling is phytohormones. Okay, or it can be called as plant growth regulator. It is called as plant growth regulators. Okay, so when we talk about plants, only in case of plant, the hormones which is responsible for bringing about the movement in plants, those hormones will be called as phytohormones, or they are also called as plant growth regulators, or they can be simply called as plant hormones. Okay, I hope so you have all understood it. So this is how plant hormones can be referred to by these three names. The first one is plant hormone, the second one is phytohormones, the third one is plant growth regulators. Either of these three, if I call either of these three words, all of these three will be the same. So please don't get confused to it. Okay, let's see more further. आगे देखते हैं. Let's talk about it more. Okay, so let us we have over here is what, let us study about plants movement, and we'll see about plants movement in great details right now. So due to external stimulus, plants show two types of movement. There will be two types of movement due to external stimulus. Let us see what kind of movement do we have. Okay, so we'll be having uh, the question over here is, see, we have an organism over here, and once it was like it was budding out from it. जैसे अगर आप देखो यहाँ पे, so यहाँ पे से देखो ये seed में से धीरे धीरे sprouts निकल रहे हैं, right? And the root is moving downwards, and the stem system is moving upwards. Is there some kind of movement or not? Yes, there might be some movement. Yes, you'll be saying, sir, yes, there is some movement, and we all saw this movement, right? Yes or no? So the question over here is the plant growing? We will say yes, the plant is growing, right? Because earlier it was very small in size, it was simply a seed. Now what we have is a complete small plant right now, right? So this is how we can say that there was movement, and that movement was because of growth. And that is why what we can say is the first kind of movement that plants show is what? Growth dependent movement. This kind of movement is called as growth dependent movement. It means what? It is movement exhibited by plant due to growth. I hope so you have all understood it well. Okay, so this is called as, yes, and we can say such movement are called as growth dependent movement. The definition for growth dependent movement is very simple. It is called as movement exhibited by plant which are growth dependent. It means until there is no growth, that kind of movement will not be exhibited. Fine, let's move ahead and let's learn about it more. Movement is dependent on growth. When we say growth dependent, we can say that movement is dependent on growth. Okay, let's see. If growth is prevented, there will be no movement. Okay, so there will be no growth dependent movement. Okay, fine, let's talk about it more. Okay, so if you touch a mimosa plant, what will happen is the leaves of the mimosa plant will simply shrink and will be reduced into its size. Okay, so was there some growth? No. Why? Because after letting it as it is for some time, what will happen is the leaves of the mimosa plant will again regain its original size, right? So It's not like when you touch it, it will get bigger, and then you touch it, it will get even more bigger. Then when you touch it, it will get even more bigger. It doesn't happen that way. So you can say that on touching it, it will simply show some movement, but that movement will not be associated to growth. So at that time, the kind of movement that the plant is showing is called as growth independent movement. It means that there is movement in the plant, but there is no growth taking place. Fine. Let's move ahead. देखते हैं आगे क्या है. So if we say the question is the plant growing? Again the question is the plant growing? The answer is no. When we touch the mimosa plant, still it shows some movement, but it is not growing, right? Okay, so the answer is no. The definition to this will be what? Such movement are called as growth independent movement. Growth independent movement means what? That you will be seeing that the plant will be moving, but these movement will be irrespective to growth. There, even if the growth is not there, this movement can take place. Okay, so even if this growth is not taking place, you can see this movement. This movement will be called as growth independent movement. There'll be one kind of a movement which is called as growth dependent. It means that until unless there is no growth, that kind of movement will not be exhibited. The other one is growth independent movement, in which whether or not growth takes place or not, we can say that still movement will be there, right? So this is how we can understand growth dependent and growth independent movement. Fine. So till now, what we can say is we have understood the difference between growth dependent movement and growth independent movement. In growth dependent movement, we'll see movement due to growth. मतलब growth होगा, इस वजह से हम लोग को movement दिखेगा. But when we talk about growth independent movement, there will be movement, but there will be no growth. Okay, fine. Now, what are these movement called as? इनको हम लोग क्या कहते हैं, हम लोग देखते हैं. Fine, ठीक है. Let us see what are they called as. ठीक है, तो मैं यहाँ पे लिख के रख लेता हूँ. Please have a note of this. Okay, ये शायद मैंने PPT में नहीं लिखा हो, पर आप लोग लिख के रखो. ठीक है. The movement which is growth dependent is called as tropism. क्या कहते हैं इसको हम लोग? Tropism. It is called as tropism or simply called as tropic movement. क्या कहते हैं हम लोग इसको? Tropism कहते हैं, या फिर आप लोग simply tropic movement कहोगे तो it is the same. Okay, so growth dependent movement are called as tropism or tropic movement. ठीक है. On the other side, if we talk about growth independent movement, it is called as nastic movement. क्या कहेंगे उसको हम लोग? Nastic movement कहेंगे. And we'll try to understand these both movement in the coming slides as well. Okay, so we have two types of movements. We have growth dependent and growth independent movements. Growth dependent movements are called as tropism. On the other side, if we talk about growth independent movement, it is called as nastic movement. Okay, I hope so you have taken a note of it. Please have a note of it. आप किधर लिख के रख लो आपके नोट्स में या नोटबुक में, तो बेटर रहेगा. ठीक है, लेट्स मूव अहेड, आगे देखते हैं. Okay, so growth dependent movement and growth independent movement, both of these movements are coordinated by hormones, and these plant hormones are called as phytohormones or plant growth regulators.